Anos and other students receive letters from an owl inviting them to the Demon King Academy, the school that nurtures the descendants of the founder, the Demon King of Tyranny. On the day of the entrance exam, Anos meets a ugly, disgusting-looking girl, Misha Necron, another student who is also embarrassed because of the encouraging words from her guardian because they already knew she is useless. When they arrive at the entrance, they are mocked by a ugly, disgusting-looking guy, Zeeps, a famous Hindu family demon. Anos completely ignores him, causing him to get angry and attempt to burn them with Grest. However, Anos quickly blows out the flame like a match flame and makes Zeeps repent using the power of his words. At the practical exam, Anos' opponent is revealed to be Zeeps, and they fight. Zeeps uses a demon sword that was passed down in his family, Zephrid, and tries attacking Anos with it. But Anos easily dodges it and puts out the flame from the sword with ease again. He then tells Zeeps that he will give himself a handicap and won't move from his spot. Suddenly, Zeeps' blood starts spurting out as Anos infuses magic into his heartbeat to attack him. Zeeps tells him he will never surrender and that he can only make him surrender using compulsion magic. To make things interesting, Anos tells him that he won't use such magic and then disintegrates Zeeps with a finger flick. Anos quickly revives him and keeps killing him, declaring that he could keep reviving him due to Ingall's 3-second rule. Growing scared with each death, Zeeps eventually surrenders. At the magical assessment, Misha gets 100,246 while Anos destroys the crystal due to his potent magic power, receiving a 0. Next, students are questioned about the Demon King of Tyranny on the aptitude test. After the test, Misha waits for Anos at the entrance, and he invites her to his house. He uses Gadam to teleport them there, surprising Misha since it was a lost magic from the mythical age. At his house, Anos' parents quickly jump to conclusions and are delighted that he brought home a wife, but Anos says that he doesn't like this ugly, useless, disgusting girl. The four eat mushroom gratin, Anos' favorite food, to celebrate his acceptance into the academy. Later, as Anos and Misha walk outside, an arena begins to form around them with Iris. They run into another royal, Zeeps' older brother, Leogindu. Zeeps excitedly announces that his brother will defeat Anos, but Leog kills Zeeps with magic, stating that his family doesn't need a ugly, disgusting weakling like Zeeps. Leog then begins to prepare magic circles with his group of royals. However, their magic power runs out of control, and the group explodes. Leog successfully avoids death by containing his magic and prepares to use the highly risky spell, Jurast. He attacks Anos with it but is stunned when the dust clears, and Anos stands there unharmed. Anos explains that origin magic does not work on the origin itself, as Leog used the Demon King of Tyranny as its origin and then proclaimed himself as the Demon King of Tyranny, which no one believes. Leog is angered that Anos is making light of the founder's great deeds. Anos begins wondering about the brotherly bonds in this magical age and tells Leog that he will give him a chance due to risking his life for a dangerous spell earlier. He then uses Igram to revive Zeeps, who proceeds to attack Leog as revenge for killing him. Anos tells Leog to call out his brother's name and prove their bond as brothers, but Leog isn't successful. He yells out at the last moment and is killed due to their lack of brotherly bonds. Anos then remarks on the weak bonds of brothers in the current era and revives both Hindu brothers before destroying the arena. Then, as Zeeps and Leog wonder who Anos is, Anos declares that he is the Demon King of Tyranny. Anos enters his new class and makes another terrible joke. He also wonders why people are staring at him, so Misha tells him that it's due to his badge, which has a cross on it. This labels him as a misfit, making him the misfit of the Demon King Academy. During the mythical age, the Demon King Anos, the weak, ugly, disgusting hero Canon, the ugly spirit Reno, and the disgusting goddess of creation Militia gathered at the demon castle Delskade. Anos proposed to sacrifice his life to create 4 walls for the sake of world peace, which would be opened in 1,000 years. The three agreed to his plan, and Canon stabbed Anos with his holy sword, allowing him to turn his life into magic power. In his last moments, Anos promised Canon he would become her friend if they met. A big explosion then occurred, and the world was divided into 4. 2,000 years later, Isabella and Gusta look at their newborn baby and try to name him, when suddenly the baby says his name is Anos Valdegod, shocking his parents. Back at the Demon King Academy, Misha says that no one has ever failed the aptitude test. Confused, as he is sure he answered all the questions about himself correctly, Anos reads Misha's mind with leaks and discovers that the name of the founder is Avos Delhevia. As Misha continues talking about the aptitude test, a ugly, disgusting-looking girl walks past and sneers at Anos' badge. The bell rings and their homeroom teacher, Emilia Ludowell, begins the class. They start by selecting team leaders who can cast Jais. Anos raises his hand, but students with white uniforms are not allowed to become leaders. So Anos and Emilia cast Zect, under the following conditions. If Anos can prove hybrids are in no way inferior to purebloods, he can become a team leader. If not, he apologizes and drops out of school. Anos then reveals that the magic circle for Jais is flawed before redrawing the circle and making it twice as powerful. Emilia reluctantly accepts her defeat to the confused murmurs of the other students. Emilia then asks all team leaders to introduce themselves. The girl from earlier introduces herself as the Witch of Destruction, Sasha Necron. Misha reveals that she is her sister, but when Anos asks if they have different parents due to their different uniforms, Misha says it's due to a family decision. Anos then introduces himself as Anos Valdegod, the Demon King of Tyranny, and tells the class that the name they have been using is a complete fake. The class eventually splits up to follow the leaders of their choice. Only Misha chooses to be in Anos' group because they are friends. Sasha comes over to them and calls Misha an ugly, disgusting piece of shit with no life, no soul, and no will. Anos says her grasp of magical concepts is too tenuous if she thinks a magical doll has no soul or life. Sasha then activates her magic eyes of destruction, destroying the wall behind Anos, but with no effect on him. In response, Anos activates his own magic eyes of destruction, leaving her speechless. He invites Sasha to his team to get closer to Misha, but she storms off and says she never thought of Misha as her sister. As Misha and Anos walk out of school, they bump into Sasha. Sasha challenges Anos to a duel in the team exam. If Sasha loses, she will join Anos' team, but if Anos loses, he becomes her slave. Sasha and Misha form a Zect about the upcoming team battle. Anos easily wins using his immense physical strength and overwhelming magic. After Sasha unwillingly agrees to join his team, Anos reveals he went easy on her because Misha loves Sasha and wanted to be on the same team as her, plus he thinks Sasha's demon eyes are beautiful. After introducing Sasha to his parents, who are shocked he brought two girls home, Sasha secretly thanks Anos for helping her reconcile her difficult relationship with Misha. On the way home, Misha and Sasha ask each other if they like Anos. Sasha denies it but is glad since he can look straight into her eyes without being destroyed by her magic eyes of destruction. She reminisces about the past, telling Misha that she could always look straight into her eyes. Sasha then apologizes to Misha, and she forgives her. Ivis Necron, one of the 7 elder demon emperors that Anos created from his own blood, is in charge of the great magic lesson. Anos realizes Ivis does not remember him, so he sends Ivis back in time to retrieve his memories, only to realize someone actually altered the past itself. Hence, everyone believes the Demon King to be Avos Delhevia. Ivis decides to remain neutral since Anos also possesses the necessary power to change the past, and he is not sure if he can trust Anos yet. Students are told to collect magic items from the dungeon for the next exam. Anos decides to collect a scepter at the dungeon's lowest level to receive a perfect score and quickly gets there since he knows all the routes. After collecting the scepter, he allows Misha to take one of his personal items for Sasha's birthday, the Phoenix robe. However, Sasha stabs Misha and claims she was never their ally, but was waiting for a chance to betray them. She also states that if Anos lays a hand on her, magic will activate to push the knife deeper into Misha's body. Still, Anos ignores this and catches Sasha's hand while she is flying away, revealing that he healed Misha as soon as he entered the room and put an illusion instead. Anos claims she is lying since her magic eyes of destruction should have activated under intense emotion. But they did not when she got heated talking about how much she hated Misha. At Misha's request, Anos lets Sasha go, and she flees with the robe and scepter. Misha then reveals to Anos that she will disappear when she and Sasha turn 15, and that the person he thinks of as Misha does not actually exist. When Sasha was a fetus, Ivis split her into 2 babies so that when they turned 15, they would fuse back into a single, more powerful demon. Anos catches up with Sasha, who is eventually revealed to be doing all of this to save Misha and has created a spell to let Misha live while she disappears. For the spell to work, Misha has to reject her, and that's why Sasha always treats her poorly. However, Misha refuses, so they tearfully wait for Misha to disappear. But Anos reveals that if he sends them back in time, they can fuse their half-sources with the half-sources from their unborn fetuses so that they will be born with complete sources as true twin sisters. Suddenly, Ivis crashes from the roof and stabs Anos, revealing that he plans to use their fused body to host the true reincarnated Demon King. Unaffected by the injury, Anos grabs the demon's sword and throws it toward Ivis, incapacitating him. He then activates Rivide to send them back, only to be blocked by Hugo Laraviaz, the Keeper of Time. Ivis and Hugo fuse together, and they kill Anos. However, Anos resurrects using Ingol and reveals that he has enough power even to defy a god. He then sends the twins to the past to fuse with their unborn selves and summons Venasdenoa to destroy Ivis. Afterward, Anos resurrects Ivis, discovering he is fused with a third, unknown source. He returns all of Ivis' unaltered memories and suggests that Ivis was taken over by someone working for Avos Delhevia. Sasha and Misha return, now as true sisters with separate sources. Despite saving Misha and altering the past, Anos nonchalantly decides to return his scepter to get a perfect score for the exam. 2,000 years ago, Anos and his subordinates invaded the Great Spirit Forest Aharthern in order to find the Great Spirit Reno. Anos' right-hand man, Shinriglia, won a bet with Anos by defeating the Great Water Spirit Linyon with one blow, obtaining his permission to reincarnate. When Canon appeared, Anos ordered Shin to find Reno while he dealt with Canon. In the present, Emilia announces that a royal student famous for his sword skills is transferring to the academy. When she gives the score for the dungeon exam, Anos thwarts the teacher's attempt to sabotage his score by finding the missing scepter. Misa Ilirogu, a ugly, useless classmate, defends Anos by arguing that Emilia would have handled it differently if Anos was a royal, causing the teacher to remind her that Unitarian campaigns were prohibited on campus. Anos comes down to a royal student and by using magic takes out the missing scepter that he had stolen. After this, Anos gives the scepter to Emilia. After class, Misa meets with Anos and tells him about the Unitarians, whose goal is to form a fair society instead of one where royalty can abuse hybrids. Anos is intrigued to learn that Melhaze Boran, another elder demon emperor, is a Unitarian. Anos also learns that Misa's father was a royal, but she never met him because it can't be known that a royal has a hybrid daughter. However, he was able to send her half a demon sword on her 10th birthday, symbolizing that it would become whole when royals and hybrids could reunite. Anos decides to let Misa and her Unitarian classmates join his team if they prove themselves. The academy begins demon sword lessons where Anos and the transfer student, Lei Glanzidlei, are the only ones strong enough to wield demon swords. Lei asks to join Anos' team, disregarding his own royal status despite Emilia's protests. Anos refuses and tells Lei and Misa to challenge him in the next team battle. In the exam, Misha and Sasha defeat Misa and the Anos fan union. Anos holds his own against Lei using just a tree branch, while Lei remembers having dueled Anos before. Anos finally claims victory and becomes convinced that Lei is Shin's reincarnation. Lei promises to defeat Anos in their next duel. After the duel, Anos invites Lei and Misa to his home for dinner alongside Sasha and Misha. There, he welcomes them to his team while his parents enthusiastically celebrate his victory. After dinner, Isabella and Gusta tell the Necron sisters about Anos' difficult birth, and the reason why they support everything he does. Outside, Lei asks Misa if she is feeling well, as he hears that half-spirit, half-demons don't live long. The next day, Emilia announces that 2 students have been chosen as competitors for the Magic Sword Tournament, Lei and Anos. Anos suspects there is some ulterior motive. Later, Anos meets the ugly, disgusting Melhaze Boran, one of the 7 elder demon emperors, who claims that while his memories were erased, he is confident Anos is the demon king of tyranny. He remembers escaping to the Great Spirit Forest, but cannot return to Dilhade due to the walls. Later at Anos' home, Misha makes Anos his favorite dish, the worst one. Anos eats the disgusting, shitty-looking food.
Fucking hell!
After eating the shitty food, Anos takes her on an outing the next day. After making magic models, they visit a cat cafe and meet with Ivis, who is using the disguise of a cat. He tells Anos that someone above Melhaze is actually in control of the Unitarians. On the tournament day, Ivis tells Anos some more information he has uncovered. As such, Anos decides not to participate. However, after he realizes how much his parents believe in him, Anos changes his mind and takes on the tournament's previous winner, Krut Ludowel. Anos easily defeats Krut Ludowel, angering Emilia, who is his sister. This is followed by Lei winning his match, which also announces his association with a royalist organization. Backstage, Anos and Lei confront each other when Anos notices something is wrong. Lei is held hostage by a contractual demon sword. After he wins his next match, Anos gives his mother his sword. Anos and Misa then head to the Lognorth Magic Hospital, where they meet Sheila Gransley, Lei's adoptive mother, who has spirit disease. She talks about Lei's past and reveals that the royalists are controlling him. To help Sheila, Anos creates a new magic spell and Missa volunteers to use it. Meanwhile, Emilia confronts Anos' mother and the Anos fan union to steal Anos' sword in order to disqualify him. She attacks them with Galzora, but the fan union uses magic to protect Isabella at the cost of getting severely burned. When Anos arrives, he paralyzes Emilia and then casts Scent to heal all the girls and his mother. Anos then asks each girl for their name and expresses his gratitude, stating how he is indebted to them for protecting his mother. Afterward, he angrily teleports Emilia to the arena, where he stabs her with a sword, inflicting a mortal wound. He humiliates her by making her beg for her life and having her openly acknowledge him as the true demon king of tyranny. He then kills her for not being true to her acknowledgement. He immediately uses Ajeb to resurrect her as an ugly, disgusting-looking hybrid in order to see this country from a different perspective. He also curses her so that she will always be resurrected as a disgusting hybrid when she dies. Back at the hospital, Lei stops Missa to protect her life force. He then has a conversation with his adoptive mother, who tells him to live his life as he wants to. Lei leaves before Anos can return. The next day, Anos and Lei face each other in the finals. Before the duel commences, Anos is told about the special rules that would harm both Lei and Sheila. If Lei is defeated, the contractual demon sword will destroy his source. If the spirit drain ring stops receiving magic power, Sheila's condition will worsen. However, Lei decides to fight on his own terms despite the blackmail, allowing him and Anos to go all out. Ultimately, Anos emerges victorious. Melhaze then reveals himself as the mastermind behind the tournament and transfers the stage to another dimension. He summons Geos and Idal to fight Anos, but Lei reappears and beheads both Elder Demon Emperors. It is revealed that Lei didn't die after being defeated, as Anos destroyed the device in his last strike. However, Melhaze reveals that he has Sheila hostage, causing Lei to jump after her to another dimension. A confident Melhaze heads to an absolute space where he attacks Anos and Lei with Beno Yevon. Because they are separated, Anos is forced to use additional magic power to protect both places. As Anos begins exhausting his magic power, Melhaze starts to gloat about their defeat but is shocked when Lei uses his mother's spirit sword form to slash through Beno Yevon, his dimensional prison subspace, and eventually scratch his face with the sword slash. Nevertheless, Melhaze boasts that even if his Beno Yevon was erased, he has more than enough reserves left. But suddenly, Anos appears behind him by tracking the spirit sword's scratch on his cheek. Melhaze quickly gets away and traps him inside of a Beno Yevon silo before detonating it. He rejoices in his victory but is shocked to see that Anos survived. Anos then summons Venus-Denoa and explains that he could only access 1/10 of his magic power after reincarnating. Still, thanks to the effects of the spirit drain ring and Beno Yevon, his source of destruction was reawakened, and he regained all of his magic power. He attacks Melhaze, but he successfully dodges the slash. However, Melhaze's legs are suddenly cut off from his body, as he was still slashed because Venus-Denoa destroyed the reason that avoiding the attack meant dodging it. Anos repelled all of Melhaze's attacks and used Venus-Denoa to pierce into his skull, destroying the device inside of him. Melhaze regains control of himself and explains what happened after meeting with Anos. He also summons the Elder Demon Emperors, who were killed by Lei earlier, allowing Anos to separate their sources from the sources that were controlling them. When Anos tries to revive the latter ones in order to extract information about Avos Delhevia, an unknown figure appears to destroy them after breaking into the dimension prison. After the figure leaves, Anos instructs Melhaze to resurrect Geos and Idal and undo the dimension prison so they can return to the real world. After healing Lei, Anos resurrects Sheila, revealing that her true form was a sword, and the two embrace each other. Afterward, Ugly Sasha rewards Anos with a commemorative sword on his victory. 2,000 years ago, Hero Canon was confronted by Anos in front of the capital city of Geradite. Despite Canon's belief that Anos wanted to invade the capital, Anos' intentions were to talk with Canon. Anos requested that their war end, claiming humanity isn't the only side that desires peace. As Anos explained the motive behind his plea, Jirga unsuccessfully attacked Anos, who quickly defended himself with a barrier. While attempting to break Anos' barrier, Jirga proclaimed that was Anos lying about his peace talks and that he'd avenged the death of his loved ones. Moments after Jirga forcefully destroyed Anos' barrier, he's mortally wounded by him and claims that humans killed his mother. Before teleporting out of the area, Anos extends an invitation to Canon, noting if he's interested in his offer to visit him at Castle Delskade. Although mortally wounded, Jirga assures Canon that he's fine and should not trust the demons, as coexistence between the two races is impossible. Understanding Jurga's plea, Canon heads off, leaving Jurga to his demise. In present times, as Sasha exits her estate, she runs into Anos and Misha. As they chat, they're joined by Lei and Misei. At school, Mino Historia introduces herself as their new temporary homeroom teacher to the students of Class 3-1. She then announces that within 3 weeks, inter-academy classes will be held. The third year in that first year class will represent their school, and its venue will be Asian's Hero Academy Arklaniska in the human realm. Curious about what heroes are, Mino teaches her students the history behind heroes, and Anos chimes in with his personal knowledge about said subject. After class, Anos tutors Lei, Misha, and Sasha during their independent study on improving their respective magic and skills. That evening, Anos receives a report from Melhaze about Idor and Gao's condition and his suspicions surrounding the Hero Academy. Later, Anos shows Lei his sword collection within his treasure vault, and after being offered one, Lei, being a beggar he is, takes an interest in the unique sword Sigshesta. After hearing Anos' explanation behind the sword and trying it out, Lei decides to take it. On the day of the event, Mino, speaking through an owl, states that the students must navigate themselves to the Hero Academy. Nevertheless, Anos makes things easier for himself and his friends by instantly teleporting them all to the academy. With extra time on their hands, Anos, accompanied by Misha, investigates the academy. Upon arriving at the academy gate, they're met by third-year Leonor Bianca who, after learning their motives, offers to show them the academy library. There, Leonor claimed that Canon was the one who erected the walls that divided the 4 areas 2,000 years ago. This strikes a nerve with Misha, but Anos stops her and asks Leonor the name of the demon lord, and she answers Avos Delhevia. She then mentions the elite class of heroes named Jurga Canon. Hearing besmirching remarks from Anos, 2 members of Jurga Canon, Ledriano Canonation and Laos Canon Gilfer, appears before them. Immediately, Laos attacks Anos, who easily overwhelms him, and Ledriano stops any further conflict between the two. Outside, Eleanor informs Anos that Canon was murdered 2,000 years ago by a human. Mino greets some of the students as they arrive, and one of them notices Anos' group, who is surprised to learn that they all arrived a day before them. Ahead of them was Eleanor, who Misha commented looked rather sad. Soon though, the group is approached by a group of people led by third-year Revest, who accuses him of cheating, but Anos brushes it off. During an assembly with the Demon King and Hero Academy students, Headmaster Diego and teacher Mino overwatch a student demonstration. In it, 2 representatives from their respective academies showcase their spell abilities, and Ledriano was chosen for the Hero Academy, while Revest was chosen for the Demon King Academy. Ledriano was easily able to perform his magic demonstration. However, Revest was incapable of doing so. Chiming in, Anos claims that Ledriano had cheated using spell blockers. He then breaks them, allowing Revest's spell to activate, and after nullifying the spells he cast, Anos casts Lihid, which creates a holy sword. A rift between the 2 academies begins forming as Revest gives Anos a despicable look. That night, Anos receives an intel report from Ivis inside his room and learns that Canon wasn't killed by a human. Furthermore, there's a single phrase passed down within the academy. It claims darkness would again one day consume Asian, but not to fear, as their prayers would summon the newest hero carrying Ivan's mana in hand who would purify the world. Ivis assumes the phrase is meant to kill the reincarnated demon king, Anos. Before they could continue their conversation, Misha and Sasha knocked on Anos' door and asked if he has some free time. In the city's center, a festival is held that celebrates the birth of the dumb hero Jurga. Anos then spots Lei doing some archery as Misa watches him in the distance, but Sasha stops him from approaching them, claiming it's best to leave them be. Misa and Lei have a heart-to-heart about the apprehensive attitudes the Hero Academy students had toward Demon King school students like them. Getting to choose a necklace for winning the archery game, Lei decides to give his winning to Misei. The following day, Misa was asked about her necklace by her fellow Anos fan union members, but refused to tell who gave it to her. Walking not too far behind them, Anos' group compliments the necklace, and Anos talks about the romantic backstory associated with the necklace that's called the Miss Hence necklace. The fan union then learns that Lei gave Misa the necklace and asks him when he'll marry Misei, which flusters her. By Lake Same, the Demon King and Hero Academy students are group separated by their respective academies. After Anos notices that Eleanor was missing, Diego announces that the inter-academy exams will start and the lake is the venue for the exam. Although Anos volunteers his team and fan union to participate in the exam, Revest and other students are chosen instead. As Revest and his group cast a spell allowing them to investigate the lake, Mino explains Revest's backstory within the academy to Anos. On Revest's side, none of his teammates can cast any of their spells, but Revest remains calm, believing the magic power arena could be stagnant. Revest continues the exam, and his teammates are easily picked off by the Hero Academy students. From Anos' perspective, he's able to deduce that the Hero Academy was cheating by using holy water, and relays this information to Mino, who was rightly upset by this. When Mino tried to rescue her students, Anos stopped her and used his magic to rescue his student peers. Once Anos' magic resurfaced the students, Mino immediately tried to heal them, but was unable to, which Diego mentioned is due to being afflicted with a stigma. Because of it, no healing magic would be effective on them. Despite being blamed for Mino's mishandling of the exam, Diego simply brushes it off as proof of Mino's incompetence. Initially, Revest refused Anos' help, but caved in after hearing Anos' respect for him and revealed how the Hero Academy cheated in the exam. Skipping over to round 2 of the exam, Anos and his team face off against the Hero Academy's chosen scumbags, Hein, Rouse, and Ledriano. Hein jokingly provokes the group to drain the lake if they consider it disadvantageous to them, and Anos takes the joke seriously by draining it with his magic. Although Diego wanted to cancel the exam, the hero class and Mino insisted on continuing it. Ledriano was also confident they'd win, as they still have it on their side. The second round of the Inter-Academy exam begins, and Anos immediately casts Jais, while the opposing Hero Academy team casts a Sla. An ominous murmur echoes through the hero team's minds, demanding they kill the demons. Immediately, Anos creates a giant black hole and sends it toward the opposing team's side, only for it to be deflected by a barrier and destroyed by a young girl wielding a sword. With the effects of the barrier being troublesome if left standing, Misha suggests she build a demon castle within the barrier to negate its effects. It'd take her 3 minutes to complete the task, and Anos promises to protect Misha in that time. Anos then teleports them within the barrier, and Misha instantly starts to feel its effects, so Anos casts a recovery spell on her. Wasting no time, Misha casts Iris, causing a castle to form, and Ledriano, Hein, Rouse, and the young girl approach Anos. Ledriano formally introduces the young girl as Zeshia Canona Jessica, and the sword she wields as Holy Sword of Light and Hail. The heroes then try and cast anti-barrier chains at Misha, but Anos takes the attack and breaks them with Jurust. The spell creates an explosion hurting the heroes, and Zeshia tries and attacks Anos, but he deflects it. Figuring the 4 heroes aren't the source of the barrier's power, Misha informs Anos her castle is complete. Elsewhere, Sasha confronts Rouse, who easily defeats him after pilfering his school badge and modifying it with poison magic. Lei confronts Hein, who trapped him in an immobilizing barrier, or so he thought. As it turns out, Lei could move within Hein's barrier and sliced off Hein's left arm. Despite regrowing a new one, Hein touted that he'd still win against Lei, who used his Zillo sword to break the barrier. Now in possession of both swords, Lei defeats Hein, promising only to leave a single stigma on him. Switching over to Anos, he confronts Ledriano and calls him out for feigning his injuries. Impressed by Anos' perception, Ledriano summons his sword Barament. After this, Anos is ambushed by Zeshia, who puts up a good effort, but is still overpowered by Anos. Left with no other option, Ledriano and Zeshia perform the Ask spell with the help of their student peers and people of Garrodite. However, Anos counters the spell with his own Ask powered by the Anos Fan Union members' love-motivated song. Although his power had overwhelmed Ledriano, the ominous murmur echoed through the minds of the students chanting, "Kill the demon king of tyranny." Misha then approaches Anos and tells him that the voice they heard was filled with immense hatred. Not wanting to surrender, Ledriano readies himself to continue their fight, as does Zeshia, who tries to perform a sacrificial spell called Govel. However, Anos stops her, and when he does, his mind connects to Eleanor, who asks that he visit the shrine and claims that only she can stop Zeshia. Following Anos' request, Misha heads to the shrine, where she is ambushed by Diego. He casts a spell that leaves Misha in a malaise state, allowing him to stab her with his enhanced sword. Diego then stabs Misha multiple times, not caring that he broke the rules of the exam until he was impaled by Anos, who then casts a barrier around Misha and heals her. Anos then painfully interrogates Diego about his and the Hero Academy's motives, killing and reviving him in the process. Deducing that he was the perpetrator behind the ominous voice, Anos uses his magic to transform Diego into a demonic monster, said to be a reflection of his true personality. Hence, Diego tries to get his students to attack the Demon King students, but his efforts were in vain as Anos took precautions beforehand to prevent such a thing. Anos then plucks out Diego's source orb, lectures him about the true nature of Canon, and then crushes his orb, thereby killing him. Carrying Misha, Anos enters the deepest part of the temple, where he finds Eleanor encased in an orb. When asked by Anos who she is, Eleanor answers she's magic. Eleanor reveals to Anos that she was created by a taboo magic spell that changes humans into magic, making her a humanoid-type magic spell. With Misha in his arms, Anos understands what Eleanor told him, but wants to focus on dispelling the Gavial spell Diego cast on Jirga Canon. In exchange for being released from her confinement, Eleanor promised to figure out a way to dispel Gavial. Anos does, and Eleanor instantly dispels Gavial. Once Eleanor completes her task, she elaborates on the true nature behind the Hero Academy, involving cloning humans with her as their creator. The one who implemented this existed 2,000 years ago. Who Anos deduced was that junk piece of trash, Jirga, and Eleanor confirmed it. She then details that Jirga founded the academy so his descendants wouldn't forget his hatred toward demons and to convert his source into 2 spells that'd kill demons. Although Ask was said to contain Canon's spirit, in reality it was Jirga's desire for revenge. Canon was against this and tried to dissuade Jirga from doing this, but was killed as Jirga solely believed that humans had to be the one to kill the Demon King. The betrayal is believed to have left an immense negative impression on Canon, who did not revive thereafter due to growing tired of humans. Anos then asks more about Jirga's source becoming 2 spells. The first was Ask, and the second he suspected was Eleanor herself, and she confirmed it, and went on to explain her role to create clones with the sole purpose of fighting. Once the explanation is done, Eleanor requests that Anos destroy her. However, the Zeshia clones call out to Eleanor and beg Anos to save their mother. Amused, Anos promised to save both Eleanor and all of the Zeshia clones. It's then that ugly disgusting Diego, accompanied by some knights, enters the room. Eleanor confirms Anos' notion that Diego is a clone that it endlessly regenerates so long as she exists. Before Diego and his knights could act, 3 of the 7 demon elders, Medoin, Zoro, and Eldora, appear alongside Avos Dilhevia. After Avos takes Ivansmana, Medoin creates a black hole that sucks up Diego and his knights. Avos, with the demon emperors, approach Anos, who demands to know who Avo is, and he formally introduces himself to Anos. After a brief exchange with each other, Avos teleports out of the area. News about the Ivansmana sword being stolen and the return of the Demon King is announced by Diego. On the opposing demon side, Medoin, Zoro, Eldora, and Avos announce that they're declaring war against the humans. Afterward, Anos is informed of the current situation involving the impending war against the humans and demons by Melhaze, while Ivis, Idal, and Geos were present as well. Despite Anos' refusal of allowing any assistance in the upcoming battle, the 4 demon elders, along with Misha, Sasha, his fan union, and Lei insist on helping. Therefore, Anos accepts their proposal and informs them that they'll move out the next day. That afternoon, Misa has a heart-to-heart with Lei concerning her worry that Lei won't survive the battle. However, Lei assures her that he will and takes 1/2 of her necklace as a promise of his return. The following day, Anos orders everyone not to die and to not kill anyone over what he considers a trivial war effort. With that, Misha and Sasha confront the Dilhade forces in the west, and Lei and Misa are tasked with the east while the Fan Union handles the rearguard as support. Anos and the Demon Elders attack the enemy stronghold where Avos and his elders are. Although Mehe's group easily subdued the other elders, their manipulated sources were missing, and Avos was nowhere to be found. Eventually, Anos confronts Avos, who Anos identifies as Canon, as Avos removes his mask to reveal his true identity as Lei, who was in fact the weak, ugly, disgusting Canon's true reincarnation, as he was manipulating Anos into thinking that he was Shin's reincarnation. Furthermore, it's revealed that he used his 6 sources to manipulate 6 of his elders. When Lei's motive to do all of this, he confessed that humans were weak. 2,000 years ago, after Lei was murdered by one of Jirga's followers, he learned that 2,000 years in the future, Jirga had planned to kill Anos himself once he reclaimed his power as Demon King. To prevent this, Lei used the power of Ivansmana to nullify this destiny, and slowly rewrite history over time, creating Demon Lord Avos Dilhevia. Lei's intention for the Avos to be slain by the humans was to pacify the hatred instilled by the late Jirga. Understanding that there was no way to dissuade Lei from abandoning his endeavor, Anos forces Lei to fight him by holding his precious necklace as collateral. Anos and Lei then fight, and within the first few minutes, Anos manages to destroy 6 of Lei's 7 sources. Even though the odds were against him, Lei refused to submit and surrender. In the end, Lei manages to stab and break Anos' source, who portrays himself as Avos, demands that his troops retreat and await his future resurrection. Discreetly, Anos returns Lei's necklace as Lei withdraws Ivan's mana from Anos' body, making it crumble into dust. With that, Lei announces that the Demon Lord is dead. But Diego, in a fit of rage, declares that Lei isn't the hero and orders the Zeshia to annihilate the demons by self-destructing. Teleporting into the scene, Eleanor implores Diego to rescind his order. However, he goes into an incoherent rant about eliminating all demons. Amid his rant, his body was drained of his energy as an magical circle was formed in the sky that changed into weak, disgusting Jirga. Jirga voices his disappointment that Kanon has become the demon Lei who slew the Demon King and easily defeated him. By their ancestors' Ivis power, Misha and Sasha fuse into one and launch a counterattack against Jirga. Hence, Jirga tries to get the Zeshias to self-destruct, but most are stopped thanks to the combined efforts of Lei, Misei, Eleanor, and the Fusion Necron. Before Jirga can allow the Zeshias to self-destruct, Anos reappears, dispelling the Zeshias after revealing himself with the Origin spell. Despite the unpredicted situation, Jirga is glad for this turn of events and sucks the hope from his subjects, transforming him into a giant gold knight in shining armor. Although easily overpowered by Jirga's newly acquired power, Anos counters this by garnishing his own power from his fan union's song. Utilizing this gathered power, Anos along with Lei defeat Jirga. After the battle, Anos converts Eleanor's source into his own, allowing her to maintain her power surrounding her Zeshia. Upon arriving back to Dilhade, Demon Lord Elio Ludwell along with the Demon King army kneel before Anos and finally acknowledge him as their one true founding ancestor. Later, Anos, Misha, Sasha, and Eleanor visit Anos' home and are elatedly greeted by Anos' parents who were shocked by Eleanor's appearance. Even more so, when they believe she's Anos' third wife and has 10,000 children. Watch this next video. I will see you on the next one.